Hello, it's me again. So I hope you're all really well. I'm on a bit of a roll at the moment and just got so many different ideas that I just really wanted to share with you. And this one, again, is another clean and simple, quick card that I think you will really, really enjoy making. And I'm going to use our plaid background stamp here. So this is the plaid pattern. And it also comes with a couple of extra little stamps that you might use for your summer creations. And the rug here, it goes really well with the Bears Picnic. However, we're going to make a winter card because plaid, I think, is very typical and synonymous with wintry kind of things as well. So I'm applying a really good layer of my ink onto there, and because we're using our stamping tool, if we need to stamp it twice, then that will be really easy to do. So I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure all around that stamp. Some people use this kind of motion as well, just to make sure that you've got all of that stamp down. And you know what, I think that is a really good first time stamp. And I've just sped up this little section where I trimmed down my panel using my Tim Holtz tonic guillotine, which is a really great tool just for getting a really precise cut. And for our image, I would really like to use something from the new Cozy Winter stamp set. So where is she? There she is, look. So there's some really, really cute little characters on here that I think will look really, really sweet. And we can also build up a bit of foliage around them, is my thoughts, with the winter wreath set, which has got some really, really cute bits that we can stamp and then die cut, and we can stamp in some coordinating shades and just die cut those out to build a little bit of foliage around them, and then a nice little sentiment up here I think is going to look really, really cool. And again, I've just sped up this section where I'm selecting all of the stamps that I want to use and popping them onto my cardstock in my stamping platform. I'm going to stamp my little fox image first, and I'm going to use my Memento Tuxedo Black ink to stamp him. Really nice impression there. Make sure that my cardstock is lined back up where it's meant to be. And I feel like that may have stamped a bit too heavy that time. Do we agree? That's better. Yeah, he just looked a little bit too thick. See, this is much nicer, thinner line, and hopefully my bit of washi tape means that it's not moved at all, and that when I stamp this again we get a much crisper. So that's much better in terms of the line. So yeah, I must have just and it's a good one for you guys to see that I must have just either moved my ink a little bit, moved my paper a little bit, or I just pressed a little bit too hard, being a bit too excited when it came to doing the actual stamping. So I'm going to use my Candied Apple because when I've done some swatching before, and if you've not seen the swatching video, or I've not had a chance to put the swatching video up yet, there will be one coming where I show you how I'm organizing my craft room so that I have swatches for all of my things, but in particular my distress inks and my cardstock. So I just think that that's just a really nice project to do over the Christmas period. Again, this is where swatching would really help me. I haven't swatched all of these yet, so I'm going to try the gathered twig. I think the gathered twig seems like a nice neutral. I'm just going to add some ink to that, and then, excuse my head, I'm just going to add that underneath a little toadstool. Cute. And now I'm going to stamp all of my green tones using my Distress Oxide ink. I'm using the Rustic Wilderness and Pine Needles to stamp all of these little leaves. I was really pleased with how these stamped out, so I stamped several more of them in the same colours, and I've die cut them, and I will show you how they came out a little bit later in the video. So we're back, and I've die cut all of my pieces, and I'll come to those in a moment, but I am now going to colour in our little fox, and I wanted to show you this, which again is something that I'm working on. So this is a prototype, but there will be more of these to come, and I'll show you in a separate video how I've made this. But basically this is going to be another swatch ring where I identify my most used colour combinations for various characters. So for this fox, I have settled on a really nice combination for him. Obviously his accessories, his hat and his scarf can change, but his body will essentially be the same. So I've got here a list of all my Copic markers that I've used to create this image. Yeah, and I've just cut this using one of my nesting dies, added a little hole there so that I can add it to my my ring, and then just noted all of the Copic colours there, so I can refer back to this whenever I come to colour my fox. So here's our little fox, and I'll show you how I did this using the colours that we've chosen. So I've always start with my lightest. Now this particular image is one that you could start with your darkest first, because there is more dark area than there is light, but because of habit and just how I like to work, I am starting with my lightest, and that's just going all the way around the edges here. Just at the outer points of the fox's body, so where I feel that the light might hit him, and that's literally all it is pretty much a line because he is going to just be mainly coloured. So I'm using the E15, which is now the second darkest shade on our colour map here. And I'm going to use that to go almost to the edges of our lightest shade, but I'm going to leave a bit in the middle, and that's where our darkest shade is going to be. For the arms, I am just going to go, they're only small, so I'm just going to fill those in. For the tail, I'm going to again go right up to that edge, but not right the way to the edge of the tail at the bottom. Add a bit of this E15 again, almost to the edge and around the body, and I have filled all of that in, but the majority of that will be covered with our darkest shade. So our darkest shade, and the good thing about this is that I can see here where I've applied my light and my shadow. So again, I can refer back to this and say, right, okay, so how did I colour this guy in? And I can see that I applied more shadow under his hat, and to the centre of his face is where the majority of that that colour went, but I stretched it out quite far. So there is almost all of that area that we've just coloured in has been covered up. Same with the arms. And then again, I'm going over the centre portion of his body. Not right the way out, but almost all the way out. Just leaving that little stripe. And again, the tail. So at the moment it looks quite stripy, but that's because we've not done any blending yet. So there will be some blending to come. So now I've applied that colour down. You can see it doesn't look quite like this yet, but if we go back over with our mid-tone and mix that darkest shade back out over the mid-tone, stretching that out that little bit further so that that paler shade is pushed back out even further. So again, it's just going to be right at the very edges of the body and of the arms and of the tail. So let's push that right out, and then we're going to go in with our palest shade, which is the E11, and I'm smudging that edge because there's a fairly large gap between the E11 and the E15. So they do blend together really well, but I find that with my brush nib, or if you're using a bullet nib, you use a small circular motion and smudge those lines away, almost like you were erasing them with an eraser. And just pushing those lines back, and I think that looks really good. That's pretty much where I want it to be. For the ears, I'm using an E93, so that just adds a little bit of pink to the ears. And then on my example here, I did just add a little bit of that to give him some rosy cheeks. For the tail and for his muzzle, I'm using warm grey 1, and I'm really only adding the tiniest bit under his chin there, just to give his face a little bit of definition, because at the moment he looks quite flat in terms of his face because it didn't have any colour to it. So we've now given it a little bit of depth and dimension, and we're going to do the same here. And you know, I'm not able to zoom in much further because I don't think you will get a really good view, but hopefully you can see how that's working to just give him a little bit of depth. And I've done the same action where I've started with my lightest colour and then gone over that edge with the mid-tone. We're only using 2 shades for the face. And now I'm going to use my blender brush, and I'm just going to push again. I'm going to smudge those lines back so they're super soft and you can't see that line. We can now move on to his clothes. So for his hat, I've gone for a traditional red Santa hat, and I think that's going to go well with the rest of our card as well. So I'm using the R24 as stated on our colour map here, and I've gone with the lightest shade, the R24, all the way over the hat. Now reds, I know we've mentioned before, super juicy. Just be careful that you don't saturate your paper too much. If needs be, leave a little bit of drying time in between layers. It won't hurt. You can go back over that and do that. So I'm going to do that for this. I'm going to wait before I add my darkest colour and just use some of this BG10 to add a bit of colour to the white of the hat, because that will still have colour to it even though it is white. And now I think I can go in now with my darkish red. I feel like it's safe. And just go over that and then blend those edges together with the R27 and pull that out a little bit. And I feel that that looks pretty good as it is. So for the scarf, you can see on my original little image here, I did a teal coloured scarf, but I'm going to do the green scarf that we've got here because that goes with our card today. So I'm just going to use some of the G21 that's on our colour map and just really easy colour in, just add that to the scarf. Just 2 colours for this. The YG67, we will add some shading there and there into there, and then just working down the scarf. And we're not going to really do any more than that because it's a small area and that's really all it needs to give it some shape and dimension. That's really cool, and that's perfect. We can add some finishing touches to him after, but I think he looks great. Helpful. So now I'm going to clear all of this away, and then we're going to get some of our bits together, and we're going to stamp out our sentiment. Okay, so we're now on to stamping our sentiment, and I think I'm going to do just some VersaFine Onyx Black for this. I think that will be enough to give us a really bright image. So again, I'm using my stamping platform, and I'm going to apply plenty of ink, light tapping motion just to get that ink on there. And then again, some gentle but firm pressure to get our sentiment stamped down. And because my card's moved a bit, I'm just going to move that into place, and then we're going to risk it for a biscuit, but we should be fine because we're using our stamping platform to just stamp that again and make sure we've got a really crisp image. And that's beautiful. I'm really happy with that. So we've got our coordinating die here. I'll just line that up, and then we'll cut this out. I do think this looks really good with the little white border. The moment of truth. Did I do a good job? I did a pretty good job. Pretty good job. It cuts off the top of my S a little bit, but I'm okay with that. So again, I've sped this section up because I did quite a bit of fussing around, just trying to figure out the placement for all of my little stamped images to create a little nest for my fox to sit in. I think that's going to work. So I'm going to leave everything in place just while I add the little fox. In this section, again, I've sped this up because I'm now going to stick all of my images down using my liquid glue. And again, there's a little bit of fiddling and poking around to make sure that everything fits in place. So as much as I can, I've tried to keep things where they were so that I didn't forget their placement. But it is quite difficult to do as you move things around and you're layering things up. So some areas I did have to poke them up a little bit to get things tucked underneath. As you can see, I'm doing at the bottom here. And because we've used liquid glue, that does really help us because we have that little bit of wiggle room and that little bit of extra time just to move things around before we finally commit. And then you see that's going to hang over the edges, which I think is really, really sweet. And I'm going to pop this up onto our panel with some foam. So I have my super large foam roll, and I'm just going to cut some strips off and cover the whole of the back panel here. Get this lined up. So I managed to line up my panel, which I'm really pleased about. And now we just need to attach our sentiment. So I'm going to use some of our shaker tape to do this. So for some finishing touches, I am thinking that some of our clear drops would be nice, because the clear drops are clear. They just enhance what's underneath, really. So here we have a little bit more speed crafting for you while I fiddle about and try and decide where I want all of my clear drops. I had initially wondered whether maybe sequins would look right, but the clear drops really were the right choice. And I'm just positioning them around my sentiment and around my fox image to draw the eye into the areas I really want people to focus on. Now, does it need one just here? Am I fussing? Possibly. And that would be, yeah, I think that's the final one. And that gives us our odd number, which makes me happy. And that's the final one. So let's add some white jelly roll to the hat, to little areas on our little fox, on his clothes, and on the side of his face. I just think that really looks super cute. And then we'll use our black glaze pen to add some shine to his nose and to his eyes. That just makes them really stand out and pop. And that's our little foxy cozy winter card complete. Isn't that just so adorable? Love it. Hope you've enjoyed that. I really enjoyed making that. I loved how this turned out with all of the foliage. So I hope that's inspired you to try something similar. And I'll see you again in another video really soon. Thanks, guys. Bye. Thank you so much for watching today, guys. If you did like the video, then please do like and subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of our future videos. And at the end of this video, there will be some links to other videos that you might like to watch. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you in another video really soon. Bye.